Hi, I'm Bridget with Potomac Beads. Join me today in creating this BowTrio chain necklace, using those BowTrios as well as gemstones and 15 O's to create this nice chain. If you need any of these materials or just need to see exact colors or gemstones I used, they were listed at the beginning of this video as well as down below underneath me. There's a full list of these materials as well as the colors and links to both PotomacBeads.com and PotomacBeads.eu. So gather up everything you need and come create with me. So to start this BowTrio chain, I have my BowTrios here and I'll be using 50 of them. And inside each pair, we'll be placing a 6mm gemstone. So we'll need 25 of those, and I'm using this Russian amazonite, and it's really pretty. It kind of has that nice tealish blue there. And then I'm also having my 15s. I don't really need those until the end, except I do need to start with 3 of them. So I'm gonna pick up 3, and then the rest of the 15s we don't need till the very end. And I'm just gonna let those fall. And I'm also using 2 needles for this project. You can use 1 if you like, but I find it a little easier to use the 2. And what I'm doing, just on each of these needles, I'm gonna be picking up the BowTrios so that they're facing each other with those 15s right in the middle. So I kind of let those fall so you can see just like that. And from here, I'm gonna have my gemstone, which will go right in that little nest there from the BowTrios. And so I'm gonna go through that middle hole and then pick up my gemstone and out through the other BowTrio. And I'm gonna crisscross. I'm gonna do that the same thing with the opposite needle. So going in through that opposite side, through my gemstone, and out through that other BowTrio. And from there, we can just tighten it up. Just like that. And so what we're gonna be doing is just creating a chain using these BowTrios, just like this. And each time, we're gonna be kind of adding towards the right side of the chain. So just as an example, so you can see, if I were to accidentally add one onto the left side, you can kind of see it just disrupts that little nice path that we have going. So when you're adding them on, just always kind of go towards the right side. So you have the middle one and then the right side on the outside. So from here, we're gonna be going through these next 2 BowTrios. And what you have to keep in mind is your left-hand needle will go through the next 4. So it'll go through all 4 of these BowTrios. So you can kind of see. And then that you can go ahead and just pull tight. And then your right hand needle, you're only gonna go through the middle 2 BowTrios. So you're not gonna go through this outside one. If you did, you'll kind of notice that the thread will kind of jump up and you'll just have that kind of extra thread there that we don't want. So you're just gonna go in through those middle 2 BowTrios. And it's gonna be that same pattern with each section. So the right hand needle is always just gonna go through those the inside BowTrios. Kind of got a tangle here, so let me fix that up. And then just pull tight. So it'll be like that. And we'll do the same that we did before. So we'll grab our gemstone and crisscross through that middle hole of the BowTrios. And then go through your gemstone and pull that. And then with your next needle, we're going to be doing the same thing. So just go through the middle hole of your bow trio, your gemstone, and then out through that opposite bow trio. So we have that. And don't worry about the thread on the outside, because once we get our chain done, we'll go around the outside with our 15 O's. So that'll cover up that thread. If you don't mind the thread showing, you can use a more similar color to your bow trios. So like this one, you could use like the KO gold thread, or if you're doing the antique silver of these bow trios, you can use the wildfire gray. And then you can just kind of leave that there and not worry about the 15s. But I am going to kind of add that little embellishment at the end. I think it's kind of nice. So again, we're just going to do the same pattern. So we're going to be adding 2 more, again, towards the right side of your chain. So your left-hand needle, you'll go through all 4 of these bow trios. And then remember, your right hand needle is only going to go through those middle 2 bow trios. So that you'll kind of go up and through. And then from there, we'll go ahead and add our next gemstone, going through that middle hole. And then your gemstone through that outer bow trio, and again with the second needle, just crisscrossing through again, and so forth. So again, I'll show you one more time. We're going to add our 2 bow trios towards the right side. With our left hand needle, we'll go through all 4 of the bow trios. This one has a little blockage, which I'll just kind of undo with a needle. There we go. And then again with your right hand needle, you'll only go through those middle 2 bow trios. And then we'll pull that tight. And from there, we'll add our gemstone right into that middle. And we'll pull that. And then with your second needle, just crisscrossing and doing the same thing. So this will just keep going until you have your desired length. Again, I'm using 50 bow trios, so that'll use up 25 of my gemstones and get a nice length there. All right, so I just put on my last bit of my bow trios and my gemstones, and I brought a ruler here as well to kind of show, because I can't fit the whole length of this chain in the whole kind of frame for you all. So I wanted to show you that with the 50 bow trios, it gets me almost to 15 inches, just about 14 and, what is that? 3/4. And so for me, I want it to lay kind of right nicely on my neckline. So I'm gonna want to make it up to 16. So I'm just gonna add a little bit of chain to either side, and then I have my clasp as well. That'll give it some length also. So I don't really need that much chain. I might actually be okay with maybe just 2 jump rings, but I'll play around with that at the end. If you all have extra bow trios in your stash and just want to keep going till the length you want, that can definitely work as well. I just wanted to stick to the 50 because that's how many you can get in just one pack. Instead of getting a pack and then needing like 2 or 3 extra, I thought I would just end at the 50 mark. But if you have more laying around, then definitely go ahead and keep going to the length that you want. So like I said, I just added this on. So let me move my ruler, and I'll keep my chain for later and my clasp as well. So let me take this out of the way. And so here I am coming out of the gemstones and the middle of my BowTrios. I'm gonna come up, I have my 15 O's here ready as well. So I'll pour some of those out. And just like we did in the beginning, I'm gonna fit just 3 of those 15s in between these BowTrios over here. So just do one side at a time and just pick up 3. And then go through that opposite BowTrio. And then with my second needle, I'll just go through those as well. Let me pick that up while I do that. And just feed your needle through there. Okay. So from here, if you're using a thread, like I said earlier, if you're using a thread that you don't mind showing, you can just go ahead and finish off that if you don't mind that thread on there. Again, when you have it on, you're not really gonna notice it that much either. So that's definitely an option if you don't want to add the seed beads along the edges. But I'll show you what I'm gonna do. And this is the Toho SemiGlazed Rainbow Turquoise is the color I'm using. So it is a matted, so I'm kind of using all the different, the shiny from the gemstone and the metal, and then the matte from the 15s, just to kind of give it a little bit of variety there. So what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna start with my top row here. So that's coming out of the second needle that we just did. And I'm gonna add enough to make it into this middle hole here. So that's gonna be about 6. And this is gonna be a lot of back and forth because I'm doing it by each little hole section here. So I have my 6, and I'm gonna go down through my BowTrios and my gemstone. And from here, I'm gonna add 6 more and come this way. So I'm gonna come over on this side and go through all 4 of those BowTrios. So you'll see it's kind of opposite sides. And then with my second needle, so the one coming up through this side, I'm gonna do the same. But this time around, I'm gonna add about 9 or 10. So let me see first, and then I'll let you know. 3. All right, so that's 9. Let me see where this lays. That actually might be a little too much. So let's go with 8. So we're gonna add 8 15s. Let me take that one extra one off. And instead of going through the hole here, I'm gonna go through my 15s over on this side. And pull that tight. And then through my BowTrios. And on this one, actually went too far. I'm not gonna go through that last BowTrio, so kind of like in I'm gonna stop at that inner BowTrio. So I'm only gonna go through the first 3. So I'm coming, my thread, you can see, is coming up in between these 2 BowTrios. Okay, and so here, I'm gonna add, still using that same needle, I haven't switched yet, 8 15s again. And now I'm gonna go through, finish this top row and go through those 15s that I put on in the very beginning. Well, the beginning of this section. So I just flipped it over so that I can point the needle away from me so that I can see where it's going. Okay, so there we have the first one. Now to get back around, I'm just gonna go again through the 15s and I'm gonna come out, I'm gonna go through that one BowTrio and come out on this side. So I'll just feed my needle through. And so keeping in mind, I didn't mention this at the very beginning, I am using size 12 needles and I'm using 0.006 wildfire. So since we are going through the 15s multiple times, you do want to make sure you are using the thinner size needles so that you can make it through those. So, where am I? There we go. So again, just feeding your way through your needles, through your 15s. And so, let me put this so you all can see. So I've made my way back over onto this side, and I'm gonna go through that last 15 and just the very first BowTrio. So coming through, you can kind of pull that tight. So at this stage, you should have both of your threaded needles on kind of opposite sides here. So you have your one coming out over here, and then the one that we just did coming out in between these 2 BowTrios. So from here, we're gonna do 6. So I'm using my needle that I still haven't switched over yet. So this is the one coming through these 2 BowTrios. So I'm adding 6 15s. And I'm gonna go through the middle hole here, so through my BowTrio and my gemstone, and coming out on that opposite side. Okay, and then adding 6 more. And now I'm gonna go through my BowTrios in between this outer one. I'm gonna go in and out to the opposite side. Okay, so again, we have the, just like on the first one, we have the 15s on kind of catty corner here. And now I'm gonna switch needles. So I'm now using my needle that's coming out of back here on this side. And I'm gonna add 8 15s. Okay. And from here, I'm going to thread into these 15s. And sometimes you will notice, since the middle hole is a little bigger, your 15 might kind of tend to go in there. That's fine. You can just kind of poke your needle in to get through that. There we go. And so again, just going through and pulling that tight. And this will eventually go down once I thread my needle back through there. But I'm going to wait on that and come up with my second needle. Make sure I'm coming through that outside BowTrio. And so here I'm going to add 8 of my 15s and do the exact same on this side. So I'm going to pick up 8. And then feed through my 15s on this side. And again, there is that 15, oops, I just lost all my 15s. I didn't pull them down, so let me recount these. Hold on. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Okay. So again, this 15's kind of fallen into the hole, so you can just use your needle to kind of get that out and feed through. Okay, so now kind of make our way back around. So I'm gonna go through the inside BowTrio and go through those next 3. And then feed my way through those 15s. And it's okay if it's a little loose right now, because once you kind of get each little eye done, you'll be able to tighten it up. So if it starts to kind of do that, that's fine, because once I get through, I'll be able to pull on both of my needles and tighten that up. Okay. So I have that one. And then I want to switch needles and make sure that this one is starting out on the opposite side. So this one, I went through my 15s the first time around, and I'm just going to go through those inner BowTrios. So now I should have a needle on both sides. Okay. All right, so from here, let's get this needle onto the outer edge of my BowTrios. And we'll go ahead and do it again. So we'll start with 6 needles, 6 15s. And go through the middle hole of the BowTrio. Oops, think I only added 5 there. Let me double check. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yep, so not a problem. Let me just go back through. And add that extra 15. Okay, so I had 5. Let me add 1 more. And then now go through that middle BowTrio there. And then doing the same on the other side. So over here, adding 6. And going through all of those BowTrios. Alright, so I'm going to switch needles, and over here I am coming out in between my BowTrios on this side. So I'm going to pick up my 8s, 15s, and feed through the 15s that are already there. And pull that. Okay. So I'm going to pick up my next needle, and I want to be coming out in the middle. So I'm coming out on the outside, so I'm just going to feed my needle through so that I'm coming in between these 2 BowTrios. And I'm going to add my 8 seed beads. And feed through the 15s that are up on the top. And then go down in between my BowTrios, and I'm going to come in between that outside one. So I'm just going to go through 3 of those BowTrios. Okay. So now I'm just going to make my way through. I'm actually going to move my opposite needle just through all 4 of these BowTrios so that I'm up on the top. And then with my needle that I just did my 15s, I'm just going to feed my way through till I'm over on this side. Sometimes it's a little difficult to get in there, but if you need to loosen it up, remember that's fine, because you'll kind of tighten up the threads once you finish each little section. There we go. All right. Okay, one more 15. And I'm gonna go through just that first bow trio, so just the one on the edge, and then I can tighten up my thread. So both my needles should be on opposite sides. You can just kind of pinch it down and kind of get those tightened. Okay, so what you're gonna do is just kind of keep going with that pattern across the rest of the edges. Again, you're just kind of going in between. It's gonna be the same pattern, the same amount of beads. So just kind of keep going until we get to the end. All right. Okay, so I've just finished going around my whole chain. I'm gonna pull that so you can see those 15s kind of all around the edge. And I'm just gonna tie this off. And since I have the 2 threads, it's just gonna be a simple right over left, a left over right. And then I'm gonna burn down the extra thread that I have. And just make sure that's tight. And I actually just measured this around my neck to kind of see the length of it and where it's gonna lay. And I know in the beginning I had said that I was gonna add some chain, but it turns out for me, I don't need to. Let me grab the ruler again so that I can show you how long this is. So this is, like I said, just about 15 inches. So it's kind of 14 3/4. And for me, that's gonna fit right around my neckline. When I have it on, I'll show you at the very end. So what I'm gonna do, and I'll show you kind of both ways. I have my jump rings here. So I'm just gonna pull those out and simply attach my clasp to the end. So this one's a Clasp Garden clasp. It is let me get the name. This is the gold-plated driftwood. And what I like about these is, since this is a heavier necklace, it's a push clasp. So it'll be, kind of have that extra protection there. So that's really nice for these heavier necklaces. So I have just my pliers here. And I'm gonna go ahead, where's my other set? And I have one jump ring already set on there. So I'm just gonna open that up and make sure. And just around those first seed beads that we did, we can just go ahead and put the jump ring right around those and close that off. And then we'll do the same. And pull the other end. Like I said, just around those seed beads that we had started out with. So again, we'll go through and then just through that clasp. Gotta twist it a little. There we go. And close that up. So there we have what it looks like with the clasp. And so this one, it's gonna be a little bit of a choker for me. If you wanna make it longer, you definitely can. And let me show you also where to go from here if you wanted to add chain. So if you need it a little longer than that 15 inches, what you would do here, instead of adding the clasp, you would still go from a jump ring, and then you'd bring your chain and you'd cut however much you needed, if it was just 1 inch or 2 inches. And you would go ahead and attach the jump ring to the chain, and then just go from there, and then attach the clasp to that extra chain. So if you do need the chain, definitely go ahead and add that. If you don't, if you just need that 15 inches like me, just go ahead and go straight into that clasp. And so there we are, one more time. It's kind of what that looks like with the clasp on. All right. So thank you again for joining me in creating this BowTrio chain necklace. Again, this is where it lays. This is the 15 inches. So if you do want it longer, you can go ahead and add that chain in the back or add some more of those BowTrios. And again, remember, if you do need to purchase any of these materials, they were listed at the beginning of this video as well as down below underneath me. You'll see a full list of materials along with the exact colors I used and links to both PotomacBeads and PotomacBeads.eu. So again, like and subscribe so you can get notifications for any of our new tutorials or any new product spotlights we have. Again, thank you again for joining, and we'll see you next time. Bye-bye.